Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Glad to be here.
You hobbled up admirably. You were walking your dog. You tripped in a hole, and that's why you're wearing that cast.
A hole on the side of the road, which means we need better infrastructure. It's the bottom line.
Boy, you go right to the point. You grew up in a manufacturing town in Ohio. You've been in D.C. a fairly long time. You worked for a couple of Republicans on Capitol Hill. George Allen, right, when he was a senator?
And governor.
Okay, and you've been at the National Association of Manufacturers, NAM as it's known in Beltway lingo, for how long?
Been there 13 years, and I've been CEO for about 7.
So manufacturers are getting a lot of attention, target of a lot of Trump policy. The manufacturing economy seems to be doing very well. We at Yahoo Finance, we have a project called the Yahoo Finance Trumponomics Report Card, where we track a bunch of indicators on the economy. Manufacturing employment is one of those indicators, and it is looking good these days, right?
It is. Manufacturers are very optimistic. In fact, we do a quarterly survey at the NAM. I've been doing it for 21 years now, and we have seen the longest consistent period of optimism for manufacturers. Usually if you have about a 55 to 60% positive outlook for the sector, that's a good thing. 6 consecutive quarters of over 90% optimism by manufacturers. So there's a lot of good news, and there's a lot of tailwinds for manufacturers. There are, of course, a few headwinds, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We will, yeah.
But great tailwinds with tax reform and regulatory reform that have really helped boost manufacturing success in the United States.
We still build stuff in America, don't we?
Well, we build more than any other country in the world, actually.
I mean, manufacturing output is at record highs, right?
That's right.
So it's looking good.
It's looking good, and manufacturing also, and one of the reasons that politicians of all stripes, I refuse to say both stripes, it's all stripes now, they care about manufacturing and the success of manufacturing, because manufacturing really drives an economy. You cannot have a successful economy if you don't make things. And we do in the United States, and it contributes to a huge part of our economy. I think the current number is $1.89 of economic output for every dollar that's invested in manufacturing. So that's a great return on the dollar. 4 to 5 jobs created for every manufacturing jobs, 4 to 5 jobs created outside the manufacturing sector for every manufacturing job that's created. So an incredible multiplier effect, right?
Okay, so several Trump policies are targeted at manufacturing. The tariffs in particular are protectionist. I mean, they seem designed to help U.S. industry, American-based firms, and also try to persuade more firms to operate in the United States. Are the tariffs helping in reality?
So I might reclassify that. I'd say that tariffs are a negotiating tactic. And seems to be fairly successful in getting, for instance, the attention of the Chinese government. The tariffs, manufacturers will say, and will say very quickly, that tariffs are never good for an economy. And we will say that trade wars never benefit anyone. And that has been proven out by history time and time again. This administration, though, has taken a little different tact, and they have decided that they're tired of China not playing by the rules. And several presidents have tried to get China's attention and tried to get them to the negotiating table. It hasn't happened before. It seems to be headed in that direction, and manufacturers are hopeful that that will be the ultimate outcome. And we want to see that happen sooner, obviously, rather than later.
Are you having any input into Trump policy? Do you talk to the administration, and do they listen to you?
Well, we certainly had many conversations with the administration when tax reform was being debated and formulated, and we had an opportunity, actually, before the election. We always try to meet with all candidates who are running for office, and we met personally with President Trump, or candidate Trump at the time, and we had a very, very robust discussion about the need to unleash capital here in the United States, and clearly he agreed, and that was part of his platform when he ran for president. We also made sure that we were providing information to the White House, to congressional leaders of both parties, to tell them what manufacturers said they would do if tax reform became a reality. And what we said we would do is we would invest in more plants and equipment in the United States, we would hire more American workers, and we would raise the wages and benefits of workers here in America. And that's exactly what we've done. And in fact, our polling that I mentioned before, that quarterly poll, is bearing that out.
So that's the tax cuts from last year, which are in place and are going to stay there, even though, Democrats in the House, even though they have the House, they're not going to do anything to change those tax cuts.
Yeah, but you know what? If If there is an effort to change them, then it's up to us to show that we've been keeping our promises. And if we can't do that, then shame on us. So our goal is to make sure that we are taking stories of what's happening in the manufacturing sector, the type of investments that manufacturers are making because of those tax cuts and also regulatory reform, the number of workers that we're hiring, the amount of retraining that we're doing to make sure that those who are in jobs now will continue to be in jobs in the future, and how we're raising wages and benefits. We've got great stories to tell. So if anybody, regardless of political party, wants to say, well, maybe we should increase the corporate rate to pay for X or Y, then we're going to be able to come back and say, if you do that, this is what you give up. And that's on us, and we have to do that. The same is true for the regulatory environment. We have more certainty now, and I was very pleased that our chairman, David Farr, was asked by the president specifically, David is the CEO of Emerson, to poll our 14,000 workers and find out which regulations are duplicative, which ones don't make sense, which are costing more than the benefit that's being derived from them, and provide that list to the administration. We did that, and so now manufacturers feel that they have certainty in the regulatory environment. What's on us now? How are we going to keep our promises there? Well, at the end of these 4 years, we need to see cleaner air. We need to see cleaner water. We need to have a healthier environment and safer workplaces. That's our commitment as manufacturers to contribute to those things.
Let me just ask you how you're measuring increased investment and higher wages for workers, because at the aggregate level, it's hard to find evidence that that's happening. In fact, the last GDP report, and I'm asking economists about this all the time, show me when are we going to see the stimulus effect of the Trump tax cut. The last GDP report actually showed a sharp slowdown in business investment. That's one data point. There are others. When you make this case, what do you point to and say this is evidence that we are increasing our spending and that workers are actually benefiting from it?
Right. Well, first of all, those reports are very important, but I also think there's a lag. So we're what?
There is
10
sure.
months.
Yeah.
10 months into the impact of tax reform. So these investment decisions that are being made for the future. You can't simply say, oh, hey, next month I'm going to invest in $1 billion plant. That doesn't, well, unless Jeff Bezos, maybe. He did that here in Northern Virginia. But I do think that these things take a little bit of time, and it takes time to work through the economy. But you are seeing it in wages. You're seeing it in
manufacturing wages?
Sure, you're seeing it in wages, but you're also seeing it in one-time payments and bonuses. You're seeing it in increased benefits. And when we do survey these manufacturers, what we're seeing is 87% are saying that yes, we are investing more than we were planning to invest a year ago. We have that's 86%, I guess, 77% saying they're going to be hiring more workers in the coming months, and 72% say they're raising wages and benefits as they look at their budgets for next year. So this is all very good leading edge news, I think, for manufacturers.
Let me ask you briefly about the new trade deal with Canada and Mexico, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Did anything much change?
Yeah, there was a lot changed.
What changed that matters to manufacturers?
Well, there's some good news, and then there's some other things that we are a little concerned about. And I think we need to understand we haven't actually seen the text of the negotiation yet.
And it's not a done deal.
Well, I don't think it's a done deal until actually language is submitted to Congress.
Right, and Congress has to.
And then Congress has to do its work and approve whatever the final agreement is. Really good news for manufacturers is we have seen probably the best protection of intellectual property that we've seen in a long time, a 10-year protection for biologics, so that's important to the pharmaceutical industry and pharmaceutical manufacturers, and that's something we really weren't expecting, and we really give kudos to the administration for that. The other good news is it's a trilateral agreement, and to your point, that hasn't changed. It could have changed, and that would have been very disruptive to the manufacturing supply chain, so we're very pleased that it's a trilateral agreement. The other issue that we're trying to sort out, and we're trying to see how that is going to impact supply chains, is the country of origin requirements for content that go into manufactured products. What we're hearing from manufacturers is they think that this is workable, we can do this. There was some concern early on about the numbers that were being thrown out. but it looks like we've arrived at something that we can do well with.
I mean, it's very complicated. I read this, and man,
It
you
is.
have to pop some stimulants to get through it.
Yeah, the one
So
issue.
let me ask it this way: are manufacturers going to have to do much to reorganize their supply lines? Or is it tweaking?
I think that is yet to be seen. Again, we don't have the text, but what we have heard, we think it will be a minimal disruption in the current supply chains, supply lines. The one area that I think has the most concern for manufacturers, and I think they will be taking a hard look at this, is the rule of law. So it's a complicated chapter called ISDS. Dispute resolution is what it's all about. And that's all been eliminated with Canada, which is not particularly good for manufacturers in the United States. And it is very dialed back in Mexico for most manufacturers. So rule of law and certainty is incredibly important for manufacturers. And I think they'll be looking at that provision to see how that impacts them.
So let me turn to China. I learned from your website that China is the biggest export market for U.S. manufacturers outside of North America. So Mexico and Canada are the biggest trade partners. But after that, U.S. manufacturers actually export a fair amount of stuff to China, right?
Right. I mean, it's clearly a very important market. I mean, if you look at the population of China and you look at the markets they serve as well, clearly a very important market for manufacturers here.
So what has happened with regard to those exports on account of the retaliatory tariffs China has put on U.S. products going into that country?
You're just starting to see the impacts, and you had asked earlier about input to the administration. One of the things that we are diligently doing is we're collecting information from our manufacturers, good, bad, ugly, and we're providing it to the administration on what the impacts are, not only of tax cuts and regulatory reform, but also trade policies. We're getting some mixed reviews right now. I don't think that they have, the tariffs have really, and the retaliatory tariffs have not hit in full force yet. We'll have to see what happens in January, whether there'll be more retaliatory tariffs. Obviously, it's not good news. I hear from some of our tool manufacturers, for instance, that the tariff that is being imposed on component parts that are being
going
imported
from the United States to China, or the other way around?
China
Okay,
into the United States is raising their costs, whereas the finished product is not being tariffed. So that's a strange twist if you think about it. You have a Chinese product coming in that's not tariffed, but you have a component part for a product that will be finished in the United States that is being tariffed and raising the cost of an American-made good. So there are so many complicated implications for this. And you mentioned the Midwest, or you mentioned manufacturing communities. Those also tend to be farming communities. And that's not my wheelhouse, but I can tell you when I've traveled around the Midwest and I see fields and fields that are going unharvested, you know that that's probably not going to be sustainable for the long term. So the faster we can get to the negotiating table with China, the better it is for everybody in all sectors of the economy.
So what does the National Association of Manufacturers want as an outcome with regard to the Trump administration's policy toward China?
Yeah, look, I think they're on the right track, and I think as far as trying to demand a set of rules that China will play by, let's rewind just a little bit and look at China and how China has treated the rest of the world. It's treated it pretty badly, and we've complained about that as American citizens, as government officials, and certainly the manufacturing sector. We've complained about the theft of intellectual property, which has not only cost potentially billions of dollars in stolen intellectual property, but some manufacturers have actually gone out of business because they couldn't compete with that.
Yeah, there's widespread agreement that China cheats on trade. I mean, you don't have to work hard to make that case.
Well, true, but it's a long list of things that they've cheated on. So getting China to the negotiating table, getting a set of rules of the road that they will follow, that is, have to be enforceable. There has to be some sort of an enforcement mechanism for China, and getting them to play by the rules that every other country or every other developed economy is playing by is going to be really important. The rest of the world, has a lot to gain as well, and we're hopeful that other countries will weigh in a positive way as
What's
well.
a better way to do it if you didn't use tariffs, or what is the way to do it even with the tariffs in place?
Well, so it would have been easy for us to simply say, this is a horrible strategy. That's pretty easy to do.
A lot of people have said that.
A lot of people have said that. We're not. And the reason we're not is because nothing else has worked. You can continue to talk about these things, but if China refuses to play by the rules or says nice things and then turns around and frankly hurts or threatens manufacturers in America over and over and over again, clearly talking hasn't worked. And it hasn't worked for 3 administrations. So I can't tell you if there's a better solution to get China's attention. I can tell you that what the president has done has gotten their attention. I will not sit here and say that tariffs are good.
Yep.
It's a you know, it is a complicated issue, and it's a national security issue. It is a foreign policy issue, and it's clearly a commerce issue as well.
There's some cognitive dissonance here because on one hand, as we started out in our discussion, the manufacturing economy is doing very well. And at the same time, Trump, his famous phrase is American carnage. He continues to, talk about shuttered factories all across America, these sort of dying towns. What is your view of the manufacturing America? Do you see carnage sprinkled in there?
I think I'm a bit more optimistic about manufacturing communities. I come from a manufacturing community, and what I do know about manufacturers is they want success. They want to succeed. They want to make sure that Washington or their state governments are not standing in their way in order to do that. So actually what I'm seeing around this country, and I pointed out our optimism poll, which is in the 90s, 90% optimism, manufacturing workers see a very bright horizon right now. But they also see some headwinds. As we just talked about, trade is clearly one of those. The other big headwind is of finding workers to be able to fill the jobs that we have open. We've got 500,000 jobs open in manufacturing today, 500,000. That number, according to the 2015 Deloitte NAM Manufacturing Institute study that we conducted, shows that that number will rise to 2.5 million, or pardon me, 2 million by the year 2025.
So again, this is the cognitive dissonance. So President Trump talks about, let's bring back manufacturing jobs when we've got all these jobs here that companies can't fill.
Yeah, but we want to, honestly, we want to be able to create more and be able to train and hire more workers.
Yeah.
We're going to update that Deloitte study this week, as a matter of fact.
Okay, I'll look for it. Just real quickly, we've only got a minute or two left. Your group is taking a stance on some issues that are not sort of hardcore economic matters like immigration. Why don't you talk to me about that a little bit?
Well, I do think it's a hardcore economic issue. I also think it's an issue that really speaks to who we are as Americans. So we believe that we need comprehensive immigration reform. We think, obviously, there are a lot of folks out there, 11 to 13 million folks who are in undocumented status that could be part of the manufacturing workforce. That's the practical side. However, the value side of this argument is this is who we are as a country. We are a melting pot, and we believe that the more diverse we are as a country, the more diverse we are as a workforce, the stronger we are. So
has NAM taken a position, for example, on family separation, the Trump's family separation policy?
We came out very strongly against that. We felt that it was the wrong place for this country to be standing. It was not at all what would fit in our value system, and we truly believe that there is a better way to deal with some of the problems, many of the problems that we see in our immigration system right now, than separating children from their parents. That is never a good idea, and it is not an American value. And manufacturers believe in what has made us strong as a country. And we believe in those first freedoms, and we believe in the strength of family, we believe in diversity, and we're always going to champion those values.
Jay Timmons, thank you for joining us. Very interesting.
Thank you, Ray.